We're back.
Sorry for the long break, guys, but we are finally back, and we're here with an amazing episode with
Rabbi Nosson Scherman.
Nosson Scherman is the general editor at Artscroll and Mesorah Publications. He's been that for a very long time.
You know what's crazy?
What's that?
I don't know if people know what Artscroll is, but today,
you don't think people know what Artscroll is?
I literally used an Artscroll siddur. What are the chances of that? I'm being sarcastic, guys. We all pound Artscroll, siddurim, chumashim,
all day,
gemaras, all the time. What a staple in the Jewish life today.
Right, and Jewish doesn't mean from. It doesn't. Jewish.
Really? And we got to delve in the history of Artscroll, how it came about. What was Rabbi Sherman's role? What is his role today? He's literally, when we met him a few weeks ago, and he was busy.
He's still working.
Yeah.
He's working from home, but I think now he's back at the office. But this episode is pretty amazing. So hope you enjoy. And once again, we missed you guys, our good friends at AMR Pharmacy. You guys know who still is the best pharmacy in the world, right? I know it's been a couple of weeks since you heard our voice, but it's still AMR Pharm.
The place to be.
That's where it is at. Let's see if I remember the phone number. It's 848-222-1110. I see those digits in my dream. And of course, dailygiving.org.
I love them.
$1 a day, and you can change the entire world. Rabbi Sai, enjoy the rest of this episode.
Welcome to the Meaningful People Podcast, the podcast where we talk to people who are
meaningful.
Yeah, that sounds good. Here we are with Rabbi Nosson Scherman in his home in Brooklyn. Thanks so much for taking your time to talk to us. We know you're very busy with Artscroll and a million other things.
When we're finished, I'll tell you if it was a pleasure.
Okay.
I'll be the judge of that.
I hope. Could you take us back to the beginning of your life, where you grew up and what your schooling system, yeshiva system was like?
I was born in Newark, New Jersey, 1935. And when I was growing up, there was no day school in Newark. There was a day school that started about a year after I started school, so there was never a class for me. So I went to Morton Street School, and it was during World War II. During World War II, you could not ask a tenant to leave. So even though my parents had bought a house in the Jewish neighborhood more uptown, they couldn't move into it because they could not displace the tenant. So I grew up really in a black neighborhood, and I was one of the pioneers for integration. If we had 3 white kids in a class, it was a white class. And there were 3 white kids in my class. Robert Roth, Salvatore Martinelli, neither of whom was Jewish, and Nosson Scherman. And I went to Lubavitcher Talmud Torah until I was 10. And then my parents sent me to Torah VoDaas. I was in a dormitory and came home for Shabbos. And I went through the entire Torah VoDaas system. Elementary school, high school, Beis Medrash, and Beis Medrash Elyon in Monsey, New York.
Mm. And I heard or saw somewhere that there was some a Rabbi Gordon, actually related to Nachi, that had a big impact on you.
Yeah, Rabbi Gordon was sent by Lubavitcher Talmud Torah in Newark. And my first Rebbe was Rabbi Altine, and then Rabbi Gordon. And he was a phenomenal person. He was a great Rebbe, but he was a phenomenal person. He was really a profound influence on anybody who knew him. And my parents felt that they should send me to yeshiva. It bothered them that growing up in Newark where no frum friends and no neighborhood and no yeshiva. And thanks to Rabbi Gordon, I really wanted to go. So there I was. In fact, it's interesting. My father took me to 2 yeshivas to interview, just to talk to the administration. And one of them was Torah VoDaas. It was on VJ Day, the day when the war in Japan ended, the war in the Pacific. So a great celebration all over. And maybe partly it was because Nosson Scherman was going to yeshiva.
That's very cute.
And so you had what to do with Rabbi Gordon at the time. Was that the last time you've ever seen him, or have you seen him?
No, he stayed on in Newark for a couple of years, and then Lubavitch sent him to Worcester, Massachusetts, or maybe it was Springfield. I think it was Springfield, Massachusetts, to start a Talmud Torah there. And later he came back to Newark as a Rav in a shul. The Talmud Torah was already defunct. After he left, it just slowly deteriorated. That's how good he was. When he was there, it was building up constantly. Once he left, it just fell apart over a period of a couple of years. And he ended up living across the street from my parents. So whenever I came home for a Yom Tov, I was already in Beis Medrash Elyon then. But when I came home for a Yom Tov, there he was.
Wow.
So did you ever envision, I guess flashing forward a bit, the work you'd be doing for, I guess, for so many years in your life?
Not in my weirdest dreams. Never.
So and how'd that begin? You met Rabbi Meir Zlotowitz?
Well, I was a Rebbe and assistant principal in Torah Temimah, which at that time was called Yeshiva Torah VoDaas of Flatbush. Started out as a branch of Torah VoDaas and then later became independent. And Rabbi Zlotowitz at the time had an invitation company and a graphics arts company. That's where the name Artscroll came from.
What was it called? Scroll art?
No. It was called Artscroll.
Yeah? Okay.
Why it wasn't called Scroll Art, I don't know, but Artscroll, it's a catchy name.
Yeah.
and we got stuck with it. I'll tell you in a minute what I mean. And he needed somebody to write copy from time to time. And he asked me if I would write for him, and I did some writing, and we became very, very friendly. And when a close friend of his died, a Rebbe, his name Meir Fuchs. Was it Fuchs? Fogel.
Yeah.
Meir Fogel was a Rebbe in Torah Semis, and he passed away in his 30s. Just didn't wake up one morning. He had no children. And Meir Zlotowitz was really a phenomenal person, a genius, talented, visionary, and he could work nonstop for any number of days even. He had this idea of doing something to honor the memory of his friend. And rather than planting trees in Israel or putting up a plaque someplace, he wanted to do something which could help people. And he had this idea of doing a translation and a commentary of Megillas Esther. He asked me if I would edit, and then he asked me if I would do an introduction, which we called an overview, and that name stuck on all of the future, probably about 30 or 40 introductions that I've done already, maybe even more than 40. And the name Overview stuck. That became my middle name, Nosson Scherman. And I worked on it in the afternoon and evening, and he wanted to finish by the Shloshim. He finished his part of the work by the Shloshim. Took longer, of course, to finish the editing and to write the overview. And it came out not long before Purim, maybe 2 months before Purim.
And it was a Megillah that he was?
Megillas Esther.
Okay.
With a new translation, commentary, in readable English. And because of Rabbi Zlotowitz's background in Artscroll, graphics arts, and the person who was working with him, Shia Brander, is a graphics genius. I mean, really one of the great graphics artists in the field, religious or secular. It had a beautiful look to it. The cover, the page design, the binding, and it took off. Until then, Jewish religious publications weren't terrible. Some of them were terrible, but even the better ones, they didn't have that professional look.
Right.
You know, you wouldn't expect to find them on the shelves of Barnes and Noble. And this book had the look, and people liked the contents. It sold over 25,000 copies in a couple of months, which was unprecedented.
That's incredible.
For a Jewish book. It never happened before. And, well, it was supposed to be a one-shot thing. He did it as a memorial to his chaver. And I was Yeshiva Menahel. At that time, I was the Menahel in the Stolin Yeshiva, which is a growing yeshiva, and I was very happy there. Very successful mosid. And that was going to be my future. My ambition always was to be a mechanech. And then I became a Menahel. Why change? And he had a successful business. But the response to this Megillas Esther proves something. You know, the old cliche, an idea whose time has come. Well, looking back, nobody realized it at the time, least of all us. But looking back, you had a generation and a half of American Yeshiva Talmidim, Beis Yaakov students who were frum and who learned. But Hebrew was not their first language. To learn a sefer was an effort. And here he had something in English. It was true to Chazal, it was true to the Mefarshim, true to the Mesorah, and it was readable English. And Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who was Meir's Rebbe, encouraged him to continue. And others also encouraged us to continue. So we did. The first was Megillas Esther, and then next in the calendar came Rus. We did Rus, Eicha, and Koheles, and Rus, and so on, Shir HaShirim. Interesting, we got a letter from Rav Gifter, 2-page handwritten letter, saying that he read it, and he liked it, encouraged us to continue. And Meir said, well, let's meet him. So he called him up, and we made an appointment to come to Cleveland. He invited us for lunch.
Were you nervous to meet him?
I was nervous.
You were nervous.
I was nervous.
Doesn't sound like he was.
Huh?
Doesn't sound like he was.
No, Meir was not nervous because he had a close relationship with Reb Moshe.
Right.
His father was a great Talmud Chacham who was also a friend of Reb Moshe, and he used to take Meir sometimes to Agudas Rabbanim meetings. So Meir had met people like that over the years. For me, there was Yeshiva, but it was a very, very pleasant afternoon. And Rav Gifter was so encouraging. He said, futures for him that we're doing, send him galleys, and he'll read and he'll comment.
That's a really big offer.
It was a big offer, and he did it. He read, he made written comments, sometimes he called. He wrote an introduction to Shir HaShirim, and that was really very, very important. Not only the encouragement and the moral support, but when you have somebody of the stature of Rav Gifter who reads English, who says that this is important, that convinced a lot of people that it really was. We had a letter from Reb Moshe, but Reb Moshe wrote a letter for his Talmud. You know, he didn't read English. When it comes from Rav Gifter, it carries a lot of weight.
So, at what point did it happen that you're menahel? That was your dream job. That's what you wanted to do, and you at one point shifted to say, "Okay, I'm joining the team Artscroll." What was that transition like for you?
I remained in Stolin for a year and a half after we started, working in the evening, afternoon, and then, Meir pushed, and I realized that we were accomplishing something. We were really accomplishing something. It wasn't just a commercial enterprise. It was never a commercial enterprise. That we're really helping people. We're bringing people closer to Yiddishkeit. When you have people who call and write letters and saying that this has transformed their lives, I felt that my conscience forced me to, what you might say, enter into chinuch on a higher level, a different level, a broader level. So after about a year and a half, I left Stolin and joined Artscroll full time.
Would you say that's maybe the key to Artscroll's success, is that obviously there's a lot of financial opportunity that it led to, but just the idea of you were putting it out to help Klal Yisrael, to help the people that didn't speak Hebrew or Yiddish straight up, and they could read English just easily. Do you think that was a component to?
That was a major component, yes. It was, as I said, an idea whose time had come. There was a realization that there was a broad Jewish frum public, not just Baalei Tshuva, but Baalei Tshuva also. But it wasn't just, Artscroll was not meant as a kiruv movement. It was meant as Hardships Torah. And it was needed. In a sense, you might say, it's like, I'll give you an example. Reb Teitz was Rav in Elizabeth. He built his big shul and a mikveh in the upscale Jewish Reform neighborhood. He saw that there was a future for Frum Yiddishkeit if you presented it in a beautiful way. And that sort of thing was our epiphany, you might say.
And I don't know, not with many things do things just pick up and are successful right away. Obviously, with putting up Megillas Esther, 25,000 copies sold, and then the idea continued to develop. But were there some, I guess, financial hardships and looking at different projects and saying this is how we do this?
Financial hardship is not the word. It was brutal, because there are two things. First of all, you want to produce a quality product. You can't do it on the cheap. Just can't be done on the cheap. So there's writing, there's editing, there's typesetting, corrections, page layout to make it look really attractive. It could be a Kavod Torah. Rabbi Kiva Eger writes when his children said they wanted to print his tshuvas. There's a letter to them, and it's printed in the Hagdama to the Tshuvas Rabbi Kiva Eger. He said they should choose the best paper, the best typesetting, because if you're producing Torah, it has to be done with Kavod Torah. Rav Gifter stressed that very much. That was very important. It was important to me. It was important to all of us.
Did you ask them how you're supposed to pay the bills?
Well, he encouraged us, but he couldn't very well help us on a Rosh Yeshiva salary. No, there are times for many, many years when we had to borrow very, very often, almost constantly, to meet payrolls. We took home equity loans on our homes to have financial.
In that moment, did you regret anything? Did you think, what did I get myself into, leaving being a manal?
Well,
it's safe to answer that now. I think you're in the clear.
Well, I often said, what did I get myself into? But I never regretted it. I never regretted it because, we know it was really important.
It was worth it.
It was worth it. It was worth the sacrifice.
Were there any people or Rabbanim that were very against Artscroll as you Rabbanim started?
It was a new thing. And the saying that the Chassam Sofer used to say all the time, Chodosh is Asur min HaTorah. You have to be very, very careful about innovations. And there were Rabbanim who were opposed. Not many. I don't want to mention any names.
Sure.
There was one very prominent Rosh Yeshiva who was actually opposed. Let me give you an example. Rabbi Yankov Kamenetsky is a good example. Rabbi Yankov was a very wise. Rav Gifter used to say that Rabbi Moshe is the Gadol Hador and Rabbi Yankov is the Pikeach Hador. Rabbi Yankov, there was never such a thing as a snap decision. He had to understand both sides. And then he made a decision. After the first couple of Artscroll Megillas came out, he asked Rabbi Yosef Elias, who was a marvelous human being, Talmud Chacham, writer, Mechanach, very close to Rabbi Yankov. He asked Rabbi Elias to read and to let him know what he thinks. And Rabbi Elias is very enthusiastic. So enthusiastic, as a matter of fact, that we asked him to write a Haggadah for us, which he did, and it's still the most popular Haggadah ever written in English to this very day.
Wow.
And that came out about 40 years ago.
And there's been many Haggadahs written since.
Many. We've produced several dozen. And that's still, I use it at my own Seder. I use that Haggadah. It's a masterpiece. Anyway, he reported back to Rabbi Yankov. And once Rabbi Yankov heard from Rabbi Elias that this was what Klal Yisrael needed, he became a very enthusiastic supporter. When we needed advice, wanted to discuss things, we went to Rabbi Yankov. We spoke to him, interesting thing, we spoke to him about Shir HaShirim. Shir HaShirim, if you just the literal translation, it's a love story. And even some innuendos. Mm-hmm. We asked Rabbi Yankov, how do you do Shir HaShirim? Rabbi Yankov said, he said, first of all, you have to understand, and all the Mefarshim say this, you have to understand, Shir HaShirim is a mashal. Shir HaShirim is never meant literally. Shir HaShirim is a mashal, it's the love song between the Rebbeinu Shalom and Klal Yisrael. So a literal translation is a false translation. The words don't mean what they seem to mean. For example, Shnei Shadayich Shnei Aforim, your two breasts. What's it doing in a sefer? Mm-hmm. And the Mefarshim explain that a mother nurses her child, provides nourishment to them. The Shnei Shadayich, Moshe and Aaron, they sustain Klal Yisrael, they nourished Klal Yisrael. And Rabbi Yankov said things like this, this is the real true translation. The literal translation is false. And he told us which, he said, rely on Rashi, and he gave us a sefer, an out-of-print sefer that was published in Europe that he had, called Rechosim Levika. He said, rely on this. This is very good. And from then on, whenever we needed advice, we went to him.
You guys had a tremendous responsibility to Klal Yisrael, to the Torah, to put out what it's really meant to be taken.
Yeah, let me give you another example. We were doing Sefer Yaina, mm-hmm. and we engaged someone to do it. A real scholar that Meir had become very friendly with. Meir loved Sfarim, and he learned in MTJ on the East Side, and he used to go into Sfarim stores. He loved Sfarim. And he became very friendly with this person who worked in the Sfarim store, a tremendous Yadon. He knew everything about Jewish publishing, and he was a great scholar too, and eventually became a professor of Jewish studies. And we engaged him to do the commentary on Yonah. And at one point he wrote, and as he was sending in his manuscripts, one point he wrote, Rashi made a mistake. Rashi made a mistake? Who are you to say that Rashi made a mistake? We paid him off, took him off the project, and Meir and I put in 18, 20 hours a day doing it ourselves because we had to come out in time. I mean, that's you talk about the sense of responsibility.
In 5 words could just, yeah.
Yeah. When somebody has the chutzpah to say that Rashi made a mistake, then other things can also creep in.
Right.
You just can't have confidence in somebody like that.
So what was, and what is, maybe it's shifted, what was your role? You were the head editor? You are the head editor of Artscroll?
My role in the early years, I edited everything. And I wrote the overviews. Mm-hmm. And we once had somebody who came, I'll tell you about that later in more detail. It's very important to our future. Yes, how do you produce so much and make it affordable? Because that was part of the mission, to make it affordable. And we said, we borrow money and we work very long hours. And that was the fact. We borrowed money, we worked very long hours. And my role in the beginning was I edited everything and read everything. But then as the work expanded, I just couldn't do it all. So I became an editor of certain important things. I did some writing. I wrote the siddur. I did a commentary to the chumash, to the Tanakh. I had my projects, and I was available for anything where I was needed.
Is there a specific sefer that you've edited or put out or article put out that's most dear in your heart? And there's a lot. I know there's a lot.
Well, I would have to say the siddur and the chumash, because this. I sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but I'm not. The siddur and there are more than 1 million copies in print. Size of Svarad, Ashkenaz, weekday and Seder, and so forth. The chumash, more than 750,000 in print. And the stone chumash has become the chumash all around the world. Prominent people have written the chumashim since then, but has not dented the popularity of the stone. So, I mean, obviously, I'm the most proud of that because they have accomplished the most.
Yeah.
And something did happen that allowed you guys to not be borrowing money to print these things and to do it differently, right?
Yeah. See, I should make this point. This is very important. People don't realize this. Millionaire publishers, billionaire publishers. It doesn't work that way because the Jewish Orthodox market is not that big.
Right.
Of course, we have not frum Jews who also buy, but that's a smaller part of the total equation. The Jewish market is, first of all, it's not that big. Secondly, with the advent of desktop publishing, there used to be a time when you talk to a Eichler or a Feldheim, and they would tell you people had standing orders, anything that came out in English, sent to them. You can't do that anymore. You go into an Eichler or any other big Svarim store, and you look at all the English things that are coming out, new ones. So obviously that cuts into sales. We're not the only ones on the block anymore.
Right.
But when we wanted to get into bigger projects, like the Shas,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, Rabbi Yankov, I think I don't remember the exact year, it was probably 1983. 82, 83, maybe 84. We were talking to him and he said, and when are you going to do the Shas? And we thought he was joking. You're going to do the Shas? Yeah. He said, tell you what he said in Yiddish, or should I just say it in English?
Do both.
Huh?
Both is
Okay.
good.
Ihr kennt das tun, und ihr darf das tun, und ihr werdet das tun. Aber der Eibusher wird mir schenken Jahren, ich gebe mir Brief. He said, you can do it, and you should do it, and you will do it. And if the Rabbi Shalom gives me the years, I'll write you a letter. We didn't start until 6 years later, and he was no longer living. But that's the thing that gave us. Maybe we really can. If Rabbi Yankov says we can, and he says that we should, but how do you pay for that? It's impossible. Just give you an idea, the Schottenstein Talmud, the English Schottenstein Talmud, total cost of the entire project was about $21-22 million.
Wow.
To produce.
Right. Each volume cost between $250,000 and $300,000, with the exception of one volume of Chulin, because there you have the trephis, the animal parts. We engaged someone from the National Geographic who's an expert in animal anatomy, and did color pictures of everything in Elotraphis, in the animals. Color printing is much more expensive. Plus, you engage somebody like that. Rav Eliashiv, when he got the Chulin, first thing he did was he turned to the pictures and he went through those photographs. Somebody came into the office. His name was Joel Fleischman. At the time, he was the first senior vice president of Duke University. A top man in one of the top universities in the country. He came to our office on Coney Island Avenue in a small building, 2 stories, and he came in and said he would like to speak. And he had a southern accent like Gone with the Wind. He was a great scholar. And he wants to speak to the principals. All right, so came in, we spoke to him. He said he just came to thank us. He said he's Orthodox background, and he runs the Orthodox Minyan Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and he's about tefillah, and puts on tefillin, davens every day, carries the yarmulke in his pocket when he's at a meeting, steps aside and puts on the yarmulke and davens mincha. And he said he just came to thank us because he's been going through the Artscroll Mishnah, and he enjoys it, a revelation to him, and he just came to say thank you. And then he said, how do you manage this at such an affordable price? He says, because something like this, when the university press would charge 3 times as much. Give you an example. Yale University put out many years ago a translation of the Rambam. Each volume, I think there are 13, 14 volumes, no commentary. Each volume goes for about $80. And here you have an Artscroll Sefer with commentary, which is at that time was selling for below $20. He said, how do you do this? So we told him, as I said before, long hours and a lot of, he said, look, he says, I've been at Yale and I'm at Duke and I know how university presses operate. You cannot do this unless you have a not-for-profit. People can give and tax deductible, you can raise money.
As donations.
Yeah, otherwise it's impossible. And he recruited the tax attorney of Duke University, and the two of them, pro bono, worked it out with the IRS, and they set up Mesorah Heritage Foundation, which is a nonprofit, arm's length from Mesorah Publications. IRS approved it. We have a board of, just to give you the kind of board that we have, they're no-nonsense people. There's Professor Fleischman himself, Jim Tisch, who's the CEO and president of Lowe's Corporation, and Joseph Schenker, who's chairman of Sullivan and Cromwell. From Yid, learns Gemara every day, a musmach. Can you imagine that?
I hope from Artscroll.
Huh?
I said I hope he learns from Artscroll.
Sometimes.
Okay.
He has a chavrus. He prefers to learn from the real Gemara Russian.
Okay.
If he needs Artscroll, look at Artscroll.
Okay, fair.
This is the kind of law firm that 50, 60 years ago probably wouldn't let a Jew in through the front door. And he's chairman of Sullivan and Cromwell, over 600 attorneys. And a few other people of that caliber. So the books are audited, and they meet twice a year and go through the books, and everything is accounted for. So, it's not a slush fund.
You gotta be very
So
careful.
So what the foundation does, we raise the money. I help when I'm called upon, but it was really him, and now he was nifter 3 years ago. His son Gedalia is a very, very worthy successor. He fills his shoes admirably. People pay for dedications, the Schottenstein edition, Milstein edition, things like that. And that makes it possible to pay the people to work on it.
And we'll be right back with the rest of that episode in just a second. But you know what? I've been getting stopped in the street a lot recently, Yaakov.
I feel like you said that last time.
I don't know, but for real. And people just say, what is this pharmacy? Who's AMR Pharmacy?
And you tell them each time, just check them out on the website.
Just go to 848-222-1110. Just call them up.
You should go to the phone number.
Go to it. It's like
hi, by the phone number.
It's like a zip code for Alaska or something. But yeah, just give them a call. They're a great pharmacy. And they started grilling me but why should we use them? I'm like, just listen to our episodes and we speak all about it. They'll have your meds for you before you need it. I
was thinking today, organically, I was thinking this. They're blister packs that they have that you don't, it's really a futuristic type of thing that's so simple. I honestly don't know why it didn't exist 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's very simple. They sort out your medications that you need for you. So, today's Monday, September 35th. How you doing?
How you doing?
And okay, then you open it up, and there you go. It's very
Right.
simple.
And,
you don't
and
make
you know
mistakes.
what? For a 14-year-old, you might not need that. But if you're listening and you are that elderly parent or that grandparent, or more likely you have an elderly parent, and you don't want to have like it on your mind that are they taking the right pills?
Right.
Then just these blister packs are a game changer. And AMR Pharmacy is a game changer.
I'm going to argue with that just a little. It's kind of like, why not have it for a 14-year-old also? I'm not kidding. Like, it just makes things easier. It literally organizes all medications. Like, why not? Like, you don't lose anything by that.
Right.
It's
just
a win-win for
You just
everyone.
lose chaos.
Yeah.
Hashtag lose chaos. Go
Hashtag
to AMR
lose
Pharmacy
chaos. I like that.
and transition. But guys, go to AMRPharmRx.com. Just check it out. We've been talking about it for a while, and you're bleeding AMR by now. So just go ahead and
Please,
check
guys.
it out.
And transitioning on to dailygiving.org. You heard us talk about them in the past, 4 episodes. I keep on saying it's a brilliant organization. I keep on getting emails every single day. If you haven't listened to any other episodes till now, let me tell you about Daily Giving. Dailygiving.org is an organization. They have 42 organizations and growing under their wing, and every single day people give $1 towards the organization. You sign up in the beginning of the month. You can sign up for 30 days. You can sign up for a year. I signed up for a year, and for a year now, every single day.
Was that a flex because you're wealthy? Like, was that like I signed up for a year?
Honestly, it was a no-brainer for me. Like Meister money, I get. Let's be honest. Let's be straight up. Okay?
You gotta give 10%.
No, we gotta get. Also,
At least.
I'm gonna vent a little. Okay.
Okay.
How many WhatsApp statuses do you see that's like you have to give to this organization, and they're all doing beautiful things, and I want to give to all of them. I try to give to all of them, but I know with dailygiving.org, I am giving to all of them.
So Daily Giving basically had that workaround and said, "Hey guys, instead of going ahead and finding all the organizations to give to, we got you covered. We'll take care of it. You just put in the info once, and every single day $1 goes to these organizations from you, and there are very, very amazing organizations.
Yeah.
So guys, go to dailygiving.org and check it out. Remember, Meister money. This is an important thing to do. It's
and
an
more
important
so,
thing to
if you want to feel even extra special, I'm going out on a limb here, but
Yeah.
it's obviously giving tzedakah, but also someone is from not Daily Giving, it has a sponsor to pay us to do this ad, and the more that people sign up, the more that we'll be able to advertise for Daily Giving.
Right.
So really, it's like if you enjoy meaningful people, you want to hear more episodes. Like this is like for us, like you give tzedakah and you really help us be able to do what we're doing right
and
now.
if you don't like hearing our voices, then just have a great day.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, enjoy the rest of this episode.
What was it like for you when your partner, Rabbi Zlotowitz, was nifter?
It was a terrible blow because he was not only my partner, he was one of my 2 or 3 best friends. We were like brothers. And for 40 years we had adjoining offices, and I would come in the morning. He was already at work, and I would bring in coffees. We'd have coffee together and talk for 5-10 minutes, and then get to work. And constantly the intercom, always talking to each other during the day. Things came up, things to discuss. It was a tremendous blow. But on the other hand, he brought Gedalia into the company about 20 years before that, and trained him and slowly increased his responsibilities. And Shia Brander and I, and the whole staff, had full confidence in him. There was no politics, there was no backbiting, no fights over who's in charge of what. It just kept on moving smoothly as if nothing had happened. Inside hearts were bleeding. But Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe Shalom, we had siyata d'shmaya all the way through. If we were able to weather times when there was no money for payrolls and we had to beg people for a loan, and we were able to get through times like that, the Rebbe Shalom helped us. And the Rebbe Shalom is helping us to this day to be able to continue without Meir at the helm.
It's really beautiful. What would you say is Artscroll's motto, if there was one?
Well, one motto is the written word is forever. And then changing Jewish life one book at a time. That's really cliche. You could say those are our mottos. We use them sometimes in advertising and brochures. I must tell you, though, about the Schottenstein family. When we started the Shas, and as I said, without outside support, could never happen. And the second volume that we were putting out was Eruvin. The reason we picked Eruvin was because we would have been able to finish it in time for Daf Yomi. And Rafi Butler, at that time, was the head of the OU. I don't know what his title was, but he was the head of the OU. He introduced us to Mr. Schottenstein. And he dedicated Eruvin Volume 1.
And it wasn't Jay Schottenstein, it was Jaro?
It's his father.
His name was
Jerome.
Jerome Schottenstein, yeah.
And we ran out of money in the middle of Eruvin 1. So we had to finish Eruvin 1, we had to go on to Eruvin 2. And where do we get the money? And somebody told a friend of Meir's, who's a professional fundraiser, told him, go back to Mr. Schottenstein. He says, but he gave already. He said, no, you don't understand what fundraising is about. If somebody trusted you once, then there's a good chance he'll trust you again. He trusted you. Go to him. So he took Eruvin 2. He took Eruvin 2. And then we had the idea, Rabbi Meir had the idea, I went along and I wrote the proposal to ask Mr. Schottenstein to give a name grant for the whole Shas. Schottenstein edition of Talmud Bavli. We went to see him at home, and his son Jay was there. Jay was young at the time. He's in early and middle 30s.
And they lived in Ohio?
Columbus, Ohio. That's where the family started out. The original Schottenstein came to America in the 1880s or 1890s, settled in Columbus, was successful as a merchant and built a local department store and every Thursday night delivered food packages to poor Jews in Columbus.
Shabbos, yeah.
I mean, the Schottensteins have a remarkable heritage. And Jay was there, and he went out in the middle to daven mincha. He was a very proud NCSY product. And Jerome looked at the proposal, and he said, Jay, what do you think? And Jay said, let's do it. And they did it. Jerome was not Marach Yamin. He developed cancer not long after that. I think he passed away maybe when 5 volumes were out, maybe even only 4 volumes. And we went to visit him in the hospital here in New York, Meir and I, a couple of times. He was getting chemo in New York. And we went to visit him in Columbus when he was never on his deathbed. And he said, Meir, Nosson, Jay will continue. Jay will continue. You keep going. And Baruch Hashem, he was more right than he even realized at the time. Jay and his wife, and then in the beginning his sisters and mother, also they dropped out eventually, but Jay and Jeannie continued the whole Talmud Bavli, went on to Talmud Yerushalmi, and Bavli in Hebrew, Bavli in Hebrew, Yerushalmi in English, and Yerushalmi in Hebrew, and Sefer HaMitzvahs in English, and interlinear siddur and machzer. These people are really they're the kings of Torah philanthropy. I don't think there's any family in history, literally, I don't think there's a family in history that has done so much for Habosas HaTorah.
I think the name Schottenstein is really it's paired together with Gemara.
Well, in America, people come to the latest Artscroll Gemara come out. In Israel, Kvar Hagia Schottenstein.
It's true. It's synonymous with.
In Israel, there's no Artscroll.
Torah.
There's only Schottenstein.
And that's like the deal of a lifetime that you guys did. You walk out with Rabbi Meir and look at him and be like, what just happened? Like, that is incredible. You
we did.
You took your shot.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And we've come, and they're more than dedicators. We became very, very close family friends. We go to Columbus every year for Jerome's yard site. He's buried in Columbus. Mm-hmm. We go there every year for the yard site, and often been there for Shabbos. The yard site comes out Sunday, for example, and we're guests in their home. The first couple of years we stayed in a hotel, and then they said, "Why stayed in the hotel? Be our guests." Mm. We are. It's family. It's a very good feeling, People like that who are so charitable and do so much good in so many ways, so many people, and they're our supporters.
It's incredible what money could do, no? What money can accomplish.
It's incredible what money can accomplish, the destruction that money can bring, and the positive results that money can bring. Yes, you're right.
Who would you say was your Rebbe? I'm sure you had a bunch of Rebbe.
I liked all my Rebbe. I had Rav Pam, 11th grade Rebbe then. It was a different world then. He didn't have a beard at that time.
Okay.
I became close to Rav Shur, even though I was never in his shir. Once after he became an aisle and then Rosh Yeshiva, for a time he was saying a shir in his office to 8 or 10 Talmidim, but then the workload just became impossible. And I became close to Rabbi Yankiv Kamenetsky. And I consider both of them to be my Rebbeim, although I never actually sat in their shiurim.
I know Rabbi Shor is famous for saying that you should live a Sfas Emes life.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
The Sfas Emes life means be frugal. The Sfas Emes was a poor man. His support was that his wife ran a tobacco business, small tobacco business, and Emes. That was the hallmark of Gerech Hasidus from the Chidush Yerim, and through the Sfas Emes and the Imre Emes, his son and successor, and Torah. Ger was founded on emphasis on Torah. Every Ger minyan, and I discovered this when we were in a bungalow colony years ago, and next door to us was a big Ger colony, and that's where we used to daven Shabbos. And Kabbalah Shabbos, after L'Chodaydi and Mizrah Shir, a half-hour learning. The morning before Kriyas HaTorah, I think it was 45 minutes learning. And Rav Shor was one of the great experts in Sfas Emes. Once he was in Eretz Yisrael, and he went to the Beis Yisrael, the Ger Rebbe, and the Beis Yisrael said that he's one of the greatest experts in the world on Sfas Emes. And in his shiurim, his shmuz, and his Sfas Emes, and Reb Tzadok, he could quote it everywhere. Rav Shor, when I was in the Beis Medrash, and this continued afterwards, he said a chumash shir every morning from 9 to 9:30. And in a half-hour chumash shir, he could quote 25 different svarim. I mean, no notes, everything. He had a phenomenal memory. He was a phenomenal masmid. He came to America when he was 12. He actually grew up in America. The Baron Cutler said that he was the first American Godel. Reb Baron was not a man who gave compliments easily. Reb Baron said he was the first American Godel.
Wow.
You mentioned before Rav Pam as an 11th grade Rebbe. What was that like?
Interesting thing. We did not know that Rav Pam could speak English.
Really?
Then yeshivas were Yiddish. And we knew he understood English because there are Bochrim whose Yiddish was very poor, and they would speak They would speak to him in English, and he would answer in Yiddish, so we knew he understood English. We did not know I didn't know until years later that he spoke a perfect English.
It's easier to say.
Not only that, he came to America when he was also 12, 13 years old, and he worked on losing his Litvische accent. He spoke English without an accent, without even a Brooklyn accent. He spoke English, perfect English, unaccented English.
Well, why do you make such an emphasis?
Is that possible? Yeah.
Because he was a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
He, my greatest memory of him, of course, as a Rebbe, and he was a wonderful Rebbe. He was a wonderful person. But my most profound memory of him, the first time he spoke publicly in English, there had been a few tragedies in Boro Park. A few people who died young, men, women. And the ladies in Boro Park wanted to make an asifa, his arose asifa, to urge, to come tzedakah, Tilim, Truva, whatever. And they asked him if he would speak. It was Asar V'Tevis. And they want him to speak English because many or most of the women don't understand Yiddish or are not fluent in Yiddish. And because he felt that it was so important, he agreed. First time he spoke in English. And I heard a tape of it. And one thing stuck in my mind to this day. He said there was a couple neighbors of his in East New York or Brownsville. I don't remember which one it was. And very simple people. And then he found out that they were not so simple people after all. Their children came to them, and shortly before the 50th anniversary. And they said, you came to America, you were poor, you couldn't have much of a chasana, maybe 10, 15 people in the Rav's house. We want to make you, for the golden anniversary, a chasana and a catered hall. We'll make you a real simcha. And they listened, and they agreed. And then a few days later, they called him back, and they said, I tear up every time I think about it. He said, we were never able to give tzedakah like we wanted to. We didn't have. So you'll come here for the golden anniversary, and the mama will make a meal like only she can make, and give us the money, and we'll be able to give it tzedakah. And Rapam said, they saw they were not poshet to people after all. And he said, people, chasna, you want a segula, that it should be successful and happy and nice. You're looking for all kinds of segulas. The biggest segula is to give money to be machzik Torah.
That's really beautiful. That's really nice. That's very nice.
Very, very big chance. I feel very comfortable saying that probably everyone listening to this, or most probably everyone listening to this, has been affected by the work that you've done.
I hope so.
How does that make you feel? Do you think about it? Do you ever think about that?
No, not really. But I have to be honest with you. This morning somebody came over to me in shul, and he told me that he's an Oval, he's saying Kaddish, and he says, and he's learning Mishnayos with the Artscroll English Mishnayos, Mishnah elucidated. And he said it changed his life. He said, when he learned, he's not an Amoritz. Mm-hmm. He says he never understood Mishnayos this way. He's went through whole Shisha Siddur Mishnah in 6 months, and he's going to go through it again. Another 6 months till the yard site. It made me feel very good.
Yeah?
I did not work on that Mishnayos. I didn't work on the Mishnayos, but it made me feel good that, we were able to put in motion something that's helping so many people.
How many Sfarim does Artscroll produce a year?
A year, About 60, 65. We have over 2,000 titles so far.
When I was in their warehouse a couple weeks ago, their office with a massive, I guess printing warehouse, and I think they told me they print 10 to 15,000 copies a day of Svarim books.
That's possible.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't have the numbers, but if that's what they told you, I'm sure it's accurate.
You've been, I guess in chinuch in more ways than one in your lifetime. Is there a message you have for the younger generation?
My message to the younger generation: Klal Yisrael needs you. Klal Yisrael needs you. When I was growing up, there were a few yeshivas, and on the upper level, the only two koilelim were Besmedrash Elyon and Besmedrash Gavoya, Lakewood. When I married and went into the koilel, there were probably fewer than 50 koilel families in the United States. Today, and Baruch Hashem, there are more than you can count. We grew up with a certain mission that, not everybody, of course, but many of us grew up with a certain mission that people like Rabbi Yankiv and Rav Shor and Rabbi Moshe encouraged it. It was after the Holocaust. It's not just that 40% of the world's Jewish population had been exterminated. 80% or more of the Jewish population, even secularists, even the non-frum, but the Yiddish culture, the Hebrew culture, is almost entirely wiped out. If you think about it, it's one of the greatest miracles since Yetzias Mitzrayim that Klal Yisrael came back from such a destruction. And we grew up with a sense, many of us, we grew up with a sense that we have to contribute to Klal Yisrael. Go into chinuch. If you have the ability, if you have the talent, go into chinuch. Do something for the Jewish people. You're a businessman. You're a professional. Devote some time to the klal. Aside from contributing, of course you have to contribute money, because without contributions, the chinuch system can't survive. And it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace that most yeshivas today are a couple of months behind in payroll. It's unforgivable. There's so much from Jewish money out there. The Yerushalmi, the Bavli, everybody knows this. The Bavli says the second Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because of sinas chinam. The Yerushalmi says ahavas momain and sinas chinam. If your first objective in life is to make money, then anybody who gets in your way, you're going to hate him. And especially now, so many people are out of work. And so many Jewish businesses, small businesses, stores on 13th Avenue or any business street will never open again. It's not only that people don't have parnasa, which is a tragedy, but these people can't pay tuition. There are contributors, big contributors, who said they can't. They lost millions. They can't do it. And nonetheless, imagine what yeshivas went through to keep things going during the pandemic. Rabbis on Zoom, rabbis on the telephone, rabbis paying visits to homes. Son-in-law of mine is a Melamed, 7th grade Rebbe, tremendous Rebbe. It wasn't just that he was teaching his class on the phone. He called up privately every single Talmud once a week. He drove by their homes, and they came out to the car to meet him. Couldn't have any physical contact, obviously, but the Rebbeim, who cared? and still care. Yeshivas went to tremendous expense to keep going as much as they could during the lockdown. And now opening up again, huge expenses. Who's going to pay for that?
Given what you just said, like, why there is a Baruch Hashem, the Jewish people, I guess, as a whole, financially are doing well, I guess you could say. Why are there yeshivas that are failing to pay make their payroll payments or are closing?
Well, first of all, I mean, there are people who are giving heroically.
Right.
I mean, I don't mean to point the finger at anybody.
No, 100%. There are many people, and probably majority and not majority, but there are many people who are holding up.
I'll give you one reason.
Okay.
Yeshivas are not exotic. People, especially a lot of the younger people who are very successful, they don't want to give where everybody else is giving. They would like to have some cause that's their own, which is fine. But it can't be to the neglect of the existing meisters, the meisters that produced them. Where did they grow up, if not in these yeshivas that they're at least partially ignoring?
I think it's, that's 100% true. And I think it's incredible if someone is has that ability to be giving, to even look at what the Schottenstein family accomplished or Klal Yisrael with their money. There are Batei Midrashim, yeshivas, there are Rebbeim, Talmidei Chachamim that have, that exist because of their, kindness, because of their giving.
True. That's true. There are many people. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that all the Gevirim are not doing their job. Many of them really are, and going above and beyond. But there's more to be done. Reb Schneur Kotler in his time said, when there was not so much Jewish wealth, frumal wealth, he said in his time, if everybody would give Meiser, yeshivas would have no problems.
Wow. And
does that apply now?
What?
I mean, that still rings true, you think?
I think so. There's a lot more Meiser today than there was then.
Right, that's true.
That's true.
Is there a particular story or moment or event that happened in your life that tugs at your heart in particular?
There's one thing early in the Shas. The original editor of the Shas, Rabbi Herschel Goldworm, tremendous Talmud Chacham, Belzer Chassid. I mean, the perfect Jew, Bal Midas, Talmud Chacham, knew you could talk to him about anything. He was nifter at the age of 56. But, we still are all inspired by his memory. He once got a call. Somebody said he has a question on a Gemara. It was one of the early Gemaras. And Reb Herschel happened to be in the office that day, so they put him on the phone. And the man asked his question, and Herschel said, Reb Kiva Eger's question, Reb Kiva Eger's kasha, and he told him where he could find it. He says, "You don't understand, Rabbi. I can't read Hebrew." And this is a man learning Gemara, asking Reb Kiva Eger's kasha?
Wow. And that was all made possible by the work that you've done. So we really appreciate what you've done for Klal Yisrael, what you built. And I say this on behalf of, I think, every generation that has been and that will be.
Don't make me blush.
Even on behalf of ourselves, I know for myself personally, I'm sure people listening that I go to shul, I'm gonna want the Artscroll siddur or the Artscroll chumash because it's easier really to connect to Hashem and just read the words. And
your shul should buy more.
Yeah. So thank you so much. It happens to be Nachi has a favorite sefer. He loves the Meaningful Minute sefer the Artscroll put out. He loves it. He's told me he buys hundreds of them.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
He really likes it.
But thank you so much for opening your door for us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure and an honor.
It was a pleasure. Okay. We got it. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo. Hope you enjoyed that one, guys.
That was a good sound effect.
I know.
Woo.
Yeah, they hired me at Microsoft. We sure did. It was another amazing episode, and we're so happy to be back. And we hope to bring to you many more of these amazing episodes.
Well, Nach, what was your favorite part of the Rabbi Nosson Scherman episode? or maybe after, maybe
You know that's a
before.
tough question because when we're recording this outro, we recorded the episode like 3 weeks
You
ago.
don't remember? You need to like re-listen to it, right?
I think just the historical aspect to it. You know, going back so far and discussing how something so huge got started.
Yeah, and
Like-
it wasn't even planned. You know what I mean? They didn't anticipate
you know, I
it.
feel like a lot of successful things happen. You know, Hashem has a steering wheel, and you're just in the right seat. So just hearing about how that happened and how so many lives are being affected today by that happening, it's pretty incredible. I think that's my favorite part.
My favorite part was that too. I don't know, I honestly, I need to re-listen to it because I don't
Yeah.
remember so much. But after, it was so much fun. We were just talking to him about Artscroll, their upcoming projects. They really don't stop. There's so
Yeah.
much, and we're talking about the new warehouse that they have. Warehouse,
Yeah,
or
and their new
wherever it's
offices in Rahway, New Jersey is
Yeah.
incredible. And I
Yes.
was there and I was able to walk through there and I was seeing how everything is printed. Fun fact about Artscroll, their warehouse is running 24 hours a day. They have 2 12-hour shifts for the workers.
even on Shabbos.
No, 6 days a week, obviously.
Oh, okay.
But they have 2 12-hour shifts, and
Wow.
they are nonstop printing Sfarim and books
That's
all
so cool.
day. For you guys. For you.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned on it, but might as well give it a shout out. I don't know where it is. The Meaningful Minute book that you wrote
Oh.
with
Yeah.
Rabbi Besser.
Shirley Besser at Artscroll and he's not at Artscroll, but we got together and we put out an amazing book.
Because typically when we have guests that like have a book, like Rabbi Benji, Pesach Kron, I mean, so many, David Bashafin,
Yeah.
so many books. So it's a little hard to shout out
plug
all the
it.
books from Rabbi Sherman, but
Right.
we might as well plug your book that
He, like,
that you wrote together.
He
with
wrote
Artscroll.
Tanakh, but yeah, we just
Yeah.
came out. Thank God we just came out with our pocket size
Oh, that's so
of the
cool.
Meaningful Minute book. He saw it's like a little baby.
Yeah,
It's really cool. You can get it in your local Judaica stores, guys.
let's do a giveaway for
Sure. How many books?
I don't know. You tell me.
Let's do 5.
Okay, we're making this. By the way, you didn't plan this.
This is
I'm
on
just
the spot.
I'm putting Knock on the spot. 5. We'll give away $5.
Sure.
How do people get it? How will they get it? Like, is there?
I'll get shipped to them.
So how do they?
I mean, how do they win the giveaway?
Okay, I got it.
It was your idea for the
Okay,
giveaway.
I have an
so-
idea. Okay. The way to get it is you leave a comment. If you already left a comment, thank you so much. We appreciate you so much. But if you didn't yet leave a comment on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review and a comment about what your favorite part about the episode is. And we're going to see any of the recent ones in the past. We're going to give it a month. So if you leave
Okay.
one within the next month, we're going to choose 5 winners. But I'll tell you the problem there. How are we going to contact them? Because you can't leave your info. You know what? You leave it there and then send us an email at meaningfulpeoplepodcast@gmail.com and say done. And
All right.
we'll enter you in.
If you want the books, this is what you got to go through. You gotta jump through the hoops.
Realistically, I'll be honest. If there's 5 of you out there, I don't know how many people will do it. Chances are, if you do it, you'll have a very high chance of winning. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll get it.
All right, guys.
Yes, I would leave it off on. Remember, everyone, to be positive this year.
And brush your teeth. Ciao.